the trail of their top movers and shakers. They're not all cut from the same cloth.
In our globalized world, don't make the mistake of thinking everywhere's now the same. Each great city marches to its own tune. My background's diplomacy, cultivating networks. As an ambassador, my job's to get to know some of the most powerful people in the world and find out what really makes them tick. Crime, glamour, power, and influence. It'll all be there. In these 6 cities, I'll grapple with the dark, Machiavellian heart of politics. I'll witness up close the lives of the immensely rich. And I'll get into the minds of those who really rule the roost. This is a journey to uncover the networks of power. We Londoners like to think of our city as the center of the world, the most visited city on the planet. Our language, institutions, even our time zone have made the city a magnet for business, talent, and wealth. Developed over 2 millennia, it now covers 600 square miles, beyond the knowledge of even the best London cabbie.
When I returned from Washington, London had changed in so many ways. It was still a collection of villages, but it had become a new kind of global capital with a new kind of global role. It's so vast, so diverse, so constantly changing, and I only know a tiny portion of it. But that's something I'm going to change.
People are drawn here from across the world. 1 in 3 residents were born abroad, and 1/4 of these immigrants arrived in the last 5 years. It's a place for the ambitious seeking their fortune and the super rich to invest their wealth. In fact, London attracts more foreign investment than any other city in the world, and increasingly, the once unthinkable is becoming reality. The Shard. This is the inauguration of the tallest building in Western Europe. Towering above the city, the Shard takes its cue more from Dubai than Christopher Wren. It's an impertinent symbol of a major shift in power. Financed almost entirely by the tiny Gulf state of Qatar, it sums up, for good or ill, what foreign sovereign wealth has done to our city. But the man behind the project is a Londoner through and through. An East End barrow boy done good, Irvine Sellers sounded a slightly unlikely power broker. Starting out in Petticoat Lane selling gloves, he now has a development portfolio worth billions and is the driving force behind the Shard.
Good morning, Sir Christopher.
Irvine, good
How are you?
morning. Thanks.
Welcome to the Shard.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, I'm just overwhelmed by this view, and I'm hardly at the top, am I?
No, you're quite a low floor, actually. We're 14. Once you get to the restaurant levels 31, 32, 33, then you're beginning to look down on London, and London looks toy town. The hotel is 35 to 53, but at the very top, you then are in an aircraft that's stalled.
Did you wake up in the night and say, I want to build something massively tall? Yes, to use your
I
phrase.
didn't wake up in the night. I was awake when I thought about it.
Now, you had to overcome a lot of obstacles to get to where
Yes.
you are today.
Generally do in life, don't you?
And even at the public inquiry, which was a bit of an ordeal, really.
It is.
They were all against you, weren't
Oh,
they?
yes. It was a stake through the heart of London, I think they said.
Stake through the heart of London.
Yes.
What made you go to an Italian architect?
Well, I like Italians. I don't think we'd have got consent if we had not had somebody like Renzo Piano.
Yeah. So
And I am
Renzo
known-
Piano caught the bug, if you
I
like.
think it did. Once we'd settled our design, at that point, I knew we would be building something that would be the best building London's seen. It would be on the back of £50 notes and postage stamps, which gave us the confidence to say this is a fight worth winning.
What does it do to you to think to yourself, this building's going to be a memorial to you, Irvine Suller. You're immortal, like Christopher Wren in St Paul's Cathedral. If you're looking for a monument, look around you.
Yeah, I think I could take credit for making it happen. It wouldn't have happened without me. Wouldn't have happened without the funding we got from Qatar.
The Qataris have something of a shopping habit when it comes to London landmarks. They now add the Shard to a collection which includes Harrods, the Olympic Village, and nearly a quarter of Canary Wharf. At the building's launch, Prince Andrew and Boris Johnson played second fiddle to the main man, Qatar's Prime Minister.
This building and this occasion showed the partnership between Qatar and UK. We are committed for this friendship. We believe in investing in your country. We are not doing it just to please you, but we think it worked for both sides.
They understood that it would be a symbol for London and a symbol for a Qatari-UK link at political as well as commercial level.
Say what you like about the architecture, and personally, I think it's great. It's a tribute to the determination and single-mindedness of one man, Irvine Suller. I'm not at all surprised that the Qataris have decided to make this the jewel in their crown of investment in London. And after all, foreign financing, an international labour force, an Italian architect, all driven by a bulldog of a British entrepreneur, isn't that the very model of 21st century London?
It's not just the Qataris who like the look of London. Foreign investors now own over half of the Square Mile's offices. Newspapers are another London asset that appeal to the global super-rich. So I've made a date with my friend Sarah Sands, editor of London's daily paper, The Evening Standard. Her elusive Russian proprietor bought the paper 3 years ago and is someone with real power. But first, I have to get past the gatekeeper.
Nice to see you.
Very good to see you.
Sarah and I agreed that in today's London, talent cuts through the hidebound traditions of old.
But London hasn't always had that reputation. How and why has it changed to become this incredibly aspirational metropolis?
Immigration's had a lot to do with it. So when you think back of old films with men in brollies in Whitehall, and you've really seen power shift in London, and it's tremendously meritocratic and it's totally global. It is interesting how much we've benefited from all the troubles around the world. We have become a sort of safe haven. And it isn't just about low tax, it's a nice place to live. You always have to remember that when people say, well, I could move to Abu Dhabi or something, yeah, but you wouldn't want to, really, would you? Whereas you would live here, you would actually live here, and you know what, your children would want to live here, your teenagers would want to live here. It's a really kind of funky place to live, as well as being economically appealing.
So, I mean, as far as the media is concerned, I really can't, in London, do better than talking to the editor of the Evening Standard. But the owners, the Lebedev father and son, Yevgeny, I believe the son lives here in London.
Mm-hmm. He's a British citizen.
So tell me.
Here was my chance to land the big one.
I would go and see him, shouldn't I?
Yeah, I would go and see them first, I think. That's
Sounds
what you
fantastic.
need. He's your first point of entry.
This is great
I've got
advice,
you in.
sir. Thank you.
Sarah was as good as her word, and I was duly summoned to the office of her proprietor. At the tender age of 32, Yevgeny Lebedev owns the Evening Standard and the Independent, together with his father, the billionaire Alexander. Their takeover shook the establishment. Who could imagine the French allowing a Russian to take over Le Figaro or Le Monde? But what most shocked me, as someone who spent years playing cat and mouse with the KGB, was that Lebedev Sr. first came to London as a Soviet spy.
In the long years of the Cold War, the Soviet KGB was our implacable enemy. Now, here I am in the heart of London's Mayfair, about to meet someone who is the son of a senior KGB officer who's bought a bunch of British newspapers. It just blows my fuses.
Yevgeny has chosen to make London his base.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for having me
Great
here.
to see you.
Golly, Is this an office or a small art gallery? would you
Something
say?
in between.
Look at these bullfighters. Were you ever tempted to try to put down roots in some other great city of the world?
I've thought about New York, thought about Rome, but I still don't think that neither New York or Rome has the same energy. I feel London is the center of the world. I think it's got the most interesting energy, it's got the most interesting balance of being cosmopolitan, and I think it's the most extraordinary city on earth. New York is actually quite introverted and interested in America, interested in itself. There isn't a great interest going beyond New York and New Yorkers, whereas London, I think, is unique in that way.
Free standard.
Unique it might be, but it doesn't explain why they bought two ailing newspapers at a time when most were heralding the death of print journalism. It seemed a risky move, and has since cost them over £75 million.
It was a huge gamble then. A lot of people said we're absolutely mad.
I thought you were mad. I must say, it was my reaction. Say, what do these guys want with this newspaper?
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of people's
Yeah.
reaction, absolutely. Because, you know, I'll be completely frank, it's not really the most lucrative business investment. If I wanted to make lots of money, I would have invested in stocks or property.
You wouldn't have gone into newspapers.
No, or I maybe would have bought a football club or a house somewhere.
Being a newspaper proprietor actually opens lots and lots of doors. This was a kind of calling card.
Yeah, I mean, I won't be shy about that. There is. I think it's unreasonable for an individual to invest millions and millions into British newspaper titles and not being able to talk to politicians. I actually speak to a very wide range. They could be from the Prime Minister or the Mayor of London to George Galloway.
Who runs this place?
I don't think there is one person that runs or one organization, but I think that's what makes it a great city. As was seen with Moscow, when city is run by one person, that's when things tend to go wrong. And
Yes.
Moscow was run by one person for many years.
And things went wrong.
And things went wrong.
Some people were utterly dismayed by the sale of the Evening Standard to Mr. Lebedev. I mean, for them it was like selling off the family silver. But isn't this exactly what happens when a city like London has become, in the words of Yevgeny Lebedev himself, the center of the world?
Clerkenwell Green. For centuries, it's been London's radical heart. I'm here to explore people power. For over 100 years, revolutionaries, activists, and trade unionists have gathered for the May Day March in comradely salute to International Workers' Day. And for the first time, I'm joining them.
Well, I'm on the hunt for Bob Crow, leader of the RMT union. But so far, all I've been able to find here is a bunch of Turkish communists and the Mexican Revolutionary Party.
Everyone knows that Iraq and Afghanistan were war crimes.
Bob Crow, perhaps the last remaining big beast of the once mighty trade unions, has survived and thrived because of his firm grip on London's most vital infrastructure, the Tube.
Here he is. Here comes a bald head.
When Bob calls a strike, London grinds to a halt, making him public enemy number one among London's commuters. But here, he's among friends.
So this goes to Trafalgar Square. Trafalgar Square.
I rather get the feeling that I'm cramping Bob's style. Perhaps he would rather not be seen marching alongside a Knight of the Realm. Bob has an ace up his sleeve that other union bosses don't. When he doesn't get his way, 3.4 million people face a chaotic journey to work. This man has London by the short and curlies, and he's not afraid to tug.
What's the secret of your negotiating success when you're on the other side of the table from representatives of TfL or whatever? How do you get your way?
I don't know, really. Management know that we don't bluff. We do call strikes. We're not frightened about being unpopular. We say to our members, you've got two options. You either accept what's put on the table, or you stand up and fight. And in my view in life, that there's no guarantee you'll win if you stand up and fight, but if you don't stand up and fight, you're going to lose.
And yet, your drivers on the tube earn pretty good salary compared with other public service workers, even like compared with the police. I think, was it 50,000 a year starters for a tube driver?
Yeah.
That's bloody good. How do you do it?
Well, it's reasonable. It sounds good to a police officer or to a nurse because their pay's being held down low. But you don't get paid in society according to what skills you've got. You get paid in society on the basis of supply and demand.
You get a very divided press. I mean, you get really whacked in some newspapers. I mean, how do you handle that? Have you got a rhinoceros skin there, or are you a sensitive soul who doesn't like this stuff?
Well, I'm same as any other human being. It'd be nice if every newspaper said, you know, what a great bloke he was, but they only attack you when you're doing something.
I mean, you can't run RMT forever.
No.
Will you ever be tempted to run for mayor?
No, it's not in
Why
my...
not?
It's a graveyard job, isn't it, really, to be honest with you?
Well, it's not a graveyard job.
Step backwards, isn't it?
No, I mean, Boris is relatively young.
I'm not up for mayor. I want to be in the RMT, and I'm going to retire and put my feet up. That's what I'm going to do.
These people, Cameron, Craig and Gore, have got the ball.
Comrades, this today is about solidarity more than anything else. Solidarity with the British working classes.
Solidarity, brothers and sisters. Solidarity!
Try as I might, I couldn't see the flames of revolution fanning out from a half-empty Trafalgar Square. In our apolitical age, young Londoners aren't rushing to man the barricades. They'd sooner be out having fun with their mates. London is, of course, famous for being cool. Its creative industries play a huge part in defining the image of London, its art, fashion, and above all, its music. Disparate, idiosyncratic, and disorganized they may be, but that doesn't mean they don't have global reach, undeniable influence. And that's real power.
So here we are on deepest Bethnal Green. And all along here are these little car workshops giving you your MOTs. And in among them is one of the hottest recording studios in London. So let's go in.
I've been allowed behind the scenes to meet a singer who started out playing in local pubs. Within 3 years, her first album had gone platinum. Brit Award winner Kate Nash.
Hello? Hello? May I come in? Hi. I'm Christopher. How do you do?
Nice to meet you.
Hello, my name's Christopher. Hi. Is there any city that you've come across that you think might offer young artists the same opportunities
as
London has done for you?
It can be really difficult being here. I don't always love it. I hate it sometimes. Like, I hate London.
When do you hate London?
Now.
Why do you hate London now?
It's a difficult place to be. It's sort of dirty and gritty, and you don't talk to people on the street. People are rude. Everyone's got their backs up. There's sarcasm. But it can also, in that sense, be really great when you're writing. I think when I'm writing, I like to be here because of that sort of toughness. Can be really inspiring, you know? There is so much happening here. Every night you could go and watch a gig, every night. And so you get exposed to a lot of different types of things, you know? It's not necessarily like everyone born and bred in London, but like a lot of people are drawn to the city. So that creates like a culture of... It's like a hub, isn't it? Of like, oh, there's always something new and exciting.
That girl is giving you the I and I and I and I don't like it how she makes you laugh so much. How when you talk and that you touch is instantly pretty and more interesting than me.
London's power to attract and inspire takes many forms. With hundreds of nationalities speaking 300 different languages and a long tradition of tolerance, it's truly a global magnet. Marx, Lenin and the ANC all use London as their base. And there are dozens of emigre communities with real clout working to effect change in their homeland. The Somalis in Whitechapel are just one of them. I'm on my way to see Abdi Rashid Douale, who owns Africa's largest money transfer company, Dahabshil. This is the main route by which Somalis abroad send $1.6 billion home each year. That's 25% of the country's GDP, effectively making it the National Bank of Somalia.
How are you? How are you, sir? Thank you.
And it's all based here in Whitechapel.
The Somalis went to all over the world.
Yeah.
If you go to Canada, Washington, D.C., New York, you know,
They're everywhere.
Somalis are nomads. And of course, wherever they went to, we open our offices there. Now we operate nearly 155 countries.
Abdirashid's golden touch has not gone unnoticed.
The telephone might go one day.
Yeah.
And a voice say, "We want you to be Prime Minister." Could that happen? Has anybody ever rung you and said,
Yes,
they have?
They asked me.
To be Prime Minister?
Not to be Prime Minister, but they asked me a different role.
Can I push you and say, what do they offer you? Can I ask you?
They asked me to whether I would be interested to run a president position.
President?
Yeah, yeah.
And you said no?
I think I am good at business, and I don't want to be a politician, at least for now.
At least for now, yeah. Yeah, I can understand that. Hello, how are you?
Abdirashid was keen to show me the local seat of power and to introduce me to his network.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hey, how are you?
Zaitoon is a Bangladeshi Somali cafe, typical of Whitechapel.
There's even a cup of tea. That's your son, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, how are you? Good to see you. You are all leaders of your community, all the people around the
Yes,
table.
yes. And of
But it's
course,
a power center here.
Exactly, a power center.
Yeah.
It's where we share information.
My big question is, why come to London?
I feel at home here, you know. I don't feel isolated, you know. I can be in English if I want to be, you know. I can be Somali if I want to be.
And be a Londoner, above all.
Yeah.
Would it be an exaggeration to describe you as a government in exile?
The Somalis here, are you talking about?
In this cafe, in this restaurant, have I found a government in exile?
Well, I think Somalis follow the Somali politics. Some of the cabinet are from London.
Yeah.
I understand even the Somaliland president used to live in London. So yes, they have a connection here. They want to be part of it. That's the beauty of being a British at the same time being Somali. You can be a British here and you can be back home, you know, Somalis and take influence.
London is home to 2 TV stations that broadcast to Somalis worldwide. With most of the media and money controlled from here, it's hardly surprising some of the biggest players in Somalia are based in London, not Mogadishu.
I've just had a glimpse into one of London's many immigrant communities. The interesting thing is that all of them, Nigerians, Somalis, Tamils, Poles, have each created their own network of power with an influence that extends way beyond London. This is one of the truest measures of the capital's global reach.
The City of London, arguably the most powerful financial centre in the world. It turns over $1.9 trillion a day in foreign exchange alone and accounts for 1 in 7 of London's jobs. It has its own police force, laws and government, all underpinned by an ancient and mysterious hierarchy. The city's livery companies were forged on the streets of medieval London and turned everyday trades into one of the city's original networks of power. Winston Churchill was a mercer. Margaret Thatcher is a poulter, but I am a stationer. And no, that doesn't mean that I sell paper clips.
Sir Christopher, Lady Mayor.
Welcome. Nigel, good evening. Upper Warden, very good to see you. How are you? How are you?
I'm very well. If you've been honoured with an invitation, this remains one of the best places to network.
I'm only a small junior.
Today, the Worshipful Company of Stationers represents the great and good in publishing and the media. I know I've made it around here as I'm seated on the top table. Although the stationers have only been networking this way for a mere 600 years, they honour an ancient Saxon ritual.
Oh dear, here we go. Right, now, toasts.
Ladies and gentlemen, the master of this Worshipful Company
The Loving Cup ceremony once served to deter assassination attempts. Today, it reinforces bonds within this closed, invitation-only network, where trusted allies watch your back. But behind the flummery lies real power.
Superbly done, if I may say so.
The livery companies began when elite tradesmen clubbed together to set the rules of the market. And ever since, they've been part of the fabric and governance of the City of London. This is the very heart of the establishment. It's the respect for tradition that helps give London the sense of security and stability that's so attractive in a turbulent world. And if it's in the establishment's very nature to maintain the old order, who's to say that livery companies won't carry on networking for centuries to come? So what of those who are excluded from the inner sanctum? I'm taking part in a brand new form of networking, free from the constraints of the ancient institutions, and with a very different kind of power.
Today, I'm making a foray into social networking.
Hey guys, not long to go, so I've said it 1,000 times, but keep adding people into the group that you know will be interested. Get as many people into the group as we possibly can.
I'm on a secret operation. Something big is going to happen over there. It's going to catch everyone by surprise, and I'm waiting for the signal.
Heralded as the driving force behind the Arab Spring and the London riots, today social media will have an equally meteoric impact on the life of one person. Through months of online canvassing, Jimmy has gathered together a group of total strangers for a very special task.
Your love keeps lifting me higher than I ever been lifted before. Josie, I love you so much, and by God's grace, I will always love you. Will you marry me?
Yes!
It turns out that my fellow flash mobbers are a talented bunch. Still, it's the enthusiasm that counts, right?
Well, you've just seen the power of social media, the ability to conjure up a crowd almost from nowhere. Now, last year, it was all about riots and violence, and this afternoon, it's about the joyous expression of love. I had tears in my eyes. Who says romance is dead in the digital age? Not me, mate.
It's clear that social networks are real game changers, and that this is their moment. They are open to all, immediate and dynamic. They threaten the old rules because they give ordinary people real power. One London-based social network is taking things a step further, using GPS technology to change the way we interact with those around us.
I'm on this social networking site that's called Badoo, and it's not quite like Facebook, because what this allows me to do is put my profile on, and it finds for me in the neighborhood the people who want to meet me in one easy step. It's a way of meeting people. Some would say it's a kind of dating service.
The man behind Badoo is another Russian, Andrei Andreev. He's on a mission to change the way we interact and is making a healthy profit from our desire to, connect with one another. Badoo has over 155 million members worldwide. That's almost 7% of all internet users on the planet. If you haven't heard of Badoo, it's because their biggest markets are Mexico and Brazil, for now. I logged back in to see how my own network was progressing.
Ah, you show me yours and I'll show you mine. That seems to be the principle on which this works. So this is my profile, described as a 68-year-old man, and 3 people want to meet me. Ah, and one of them's Andre.
Yeah.
Здравствуйте, good morning.
Здравствуйте.
How are you?
Badoo in the beginning was a kind of social network, very similar to Facebook today. I was in St. Petersburg. We visited a cool place called Telephone Bar.
Telephone Bar?
Yeah, huge place, about 100 tables, and the people come. Once they get in, they sit on the table and they have a phone and the number. And the people look for the other tables and they just make phone calls from table to table. So for example, if we like 3 cute girls just a couple of tables away and the table number 46, we just call 46 and we can have like short communication.
So that was the beginning of the idea.
So I came back to the office and I say, guys, I think we should try this. We should not compete with Facebook. We should make a place for meeting new people.
But the question I would ask you about London, and you know London because you've been living here, what,
about
several years?
7 years.
Is that London is itself a great multilingual, multicultural hub.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why we're here.
Yeah.
Because lots of good international talents come into London and this is the best place to hire them. Victor from Sweden, Thomas from Belgium,
Aye.
Nathan English, Ivan Spanish. So we have all type of people here.
Let's be frank here. An awful lot of Badoo users are on there to look for sex. But it struck me that the allure of Badoo echoed that of London, a place where anyone could meet and anything could happen. And Badoo's viral spread shows no sign of stopping.
So you've conquered Latin America, you've conquered Eastern and Southern Europe.
Yeah.
And now your target is the English-speaking world.
Yes. Because we're trying to be the biggest place on the planet for meeting new people, and we want to be everywhere. And the next big thing for us is United States and all the English-speaking markets. So we have big plans.
Yes.
Of course, people like Andre can live anywhere they want. But thanks to its lifestyle, talented workforce, and, I suspect, its welcoming tax laws, London thrives on its ability to attract the driven, the energetic, and the creative.
Yeah.
Behind Andre's deceptively shy exterior is someone who wants to change the very way in which people around the globe interact with each other. And for all we know, he may succeed.
Westminster, ancient seat of British political power. With its centuries-old protocol, you'd think that this is one place you'd have to play by the rules to get ahead. But increasingly in London, you can always carve out your own niche. I'm off to see a bonkbuster novelist, an occasional fashion model, and a social network founder. But Louise Mensch was also elected MP in 2010. With over 2 million books sold and 65,000 Twitter followers, her influence extends far beyond her Corby constituency. I've lured her away from the corridors of power to the kind of luxury hotel that the characters in her novels frequent. Sex appeal, or what sociologists call erotic capital, oozes from the pages of Louise's books. But can it give you power when trying to make it in London?
Pretty raunchy stuff, I can tell you. I always wanted you, he was murmuring, fumbling with buttons. Down to her bra and panties. Well, I may need a cold shower before this interview. Hey.
Hello,
Hi, how are you?
Haven't
Haven't seen you for ages.
I know, it's been too long.
Yes,
too long.
come in.
I've got the Prosecco on ice to jolly things along, but there is one small problem.
Frig, hang on. We're going to have one of these most incredibly embarrassing situations. I can't get the cork out.
Give me the bottle. I can get the bottle.
How am I going to live that down?
In your novels, the word power leaps from many pages. But there is a glitzy side to you, if I may put this. I mean, you do fashion shoots and all that sort of stuff. It's part of the career mix, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think when you go and do magazine profiles, they tend to style all their subjects. This is pretty much standard practice, whether they're men or women. It's only the women that get noticed. I
mean, men should be using their erotic capital as well, shouldn't they? I mean, it's a whole...
Actually,
in the House of Commons, you should see both, shouldn't you?
Goodness, I think that'll put half your viewers right off their supper, the thought of either men or women in the House of Commons using their erotic capital. Perhaps we need a little bit less of that.
You have, to use the political scientist jargon, hard power, because you can bring these great people to account, bring them before the bar of the House of Commons. You also have all this soft power, the fact you've written novels, you're a celeb, you are, and a well-recognised face. So the soft power complements the hard power. Would you agree with that proposition?
Soft power can complement hard power. I don't know if it's true in my case. I wouldn't call myself a celeb. Believe me, nobody is stopping me in the street for my autograph. I mean, let's not over-egg the pudding over here.
You are a recognisable face. You have climbed a long way up the greasy pole, and there's further to go as well. What's the most important thing you've learnt?
Don't be a typical politician. I'm very big on social media, I'm big on Twitter, and I don't guard what I say. I think the idea of the polished politician that only talks about their constituency and never puts a foot wrong, that's gone out the window. Perhaps the most important lesson is to just authentically be yourself.
Which, by more traditional standards, would be considered maverick.
Yeah, they would indeed. I spent my formative youth working in the record business, going on the road with rock bands. My husband manages Metallica. I have a lot of hinterland, a lot of previous, and so I bring stuff to the House of Commons Culture and Media Committee that isn't necessarily the typical background of a Tory MP, but I tend to think that's a plus, not a minus.
Because so many people have said to us, and not only in London, but in other cities of the world, that it's not what you know, it's who you know, and if you want to climb the greasy pole, you've got to build your own network of colleagues and friends of influence.
I think that's absolute rubbish, actually, and I remember people saying the same thing to me in terms of books when I wanted to get published. So you'll never get an agent unless you know somebody. I sent off my submission blind to a bunch of agents, and when I wanted to become an MP, I walked into the office of my local Conservative Party with some promo for my books, and I said, you desperately need somebody who can speak to women. I sell books to women. That was my pitch. I didn't know anybody in any kind of a country set or a city set. I didn't have any contacts in central office. People are put off by these so-called entry requirements. The important thing is just to start.
The thing about Mavericks, obviously, is that they don't play by the rules. And shortly after this interview, Louise Mensch shocked the establishment by resigning as MP to move her family to New York, where her husband works. But I bet that's not the last we see of her in London. One person with an even more colourful career is Mayor Boris Johnson, who landed London's top job through sheer force of personality. Boris has asked me to meet him at City Hall, or the Glass Gonad, as he likes to call it.
City Hall didn't exist before I went to Washington, but here it is in all its contrived quirkiness, some would say, like its current occupant, but I couldn't possibly comment.
Entering his second term as London's mayor, Boris controls a budget of over £14 billion, and the decisions he makes have a real and a swift impact on life in the city. I was chuffed that I'd secured a meeting with relative ease, but then Boris did have a book to promote. Maybe I was nothing but a pawn in his power game.
Very good to see you.
Nice to see you.
Thanks for doing this.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Christopher.
No.
How are you?
Very, very well.
Mayor on mayors, is this what it's called?
Mayor is to two mayors.
That's right. After you go on.
Thanks.
Only in London would you find such an oddball building with an oddball mayor who has real power.
We're two mature blondes with the wind in our hair. How about that? I mean, you have all this authority, and you're now into a second term. What's the secret of your success? How'd you get this job?
I don't know. What is the answer? Telly. It's all about telly. How about that? It was because
you're a celeb.
Well,
Name
I know,
recognition?
well, I think there may be an element of that. Maybe I owe everything to Have I Got News for You. It could well be. So all the cowardly custards who don't do it should think of that.
Yeah, but you went to Oxford, you went to Eton, you're a member of the Tory party.
Yes, well,
there's a whole lot
apart from those elementary disqualifications, how did I overcome those natural disadvantages?
Well, that's my point.
You go through a pretty agonising selection process, followed by the campaign itself. And Londoners really do get a chance to watch you pretty closely. and get an idea of whether or not you're going to represent them well and whether you understand it all. So there's a bug in my eye, sorry.
I mean,
provided you can't see the bug.
I can't see a bug.
No,
you look like you have a normal eye.
Fine, go, you know, go on.
What we're interested in is power.
Power.
What kind of networks you need to prepare.
Well, no, this is one of the interesting things. One of the interesting things about the mayoralty, sometimes it helps in a job like this not necessarily to be plugged into a network of power, but to at least to present yourself as somebody who's emerged as to be an outsider. The mayoralty is a wonderful job for somebody with an essentially piratical approach. Excuse me. It is probably true that everybody kind of knows each other one way or the other. But that doesn't mean that it's an impermeable network, or whatever the phrase I want. There are loads of ways that people can become members of what you might call cornerly the establishment, or the powers that be.
Is there an establishment?
The powers
here?
that be in London.
Does it exist? Or is this a sort of conspiracy mythology?
There is no society open to our direct observation, said the great Roman historian Ronald Syme, that has not been governed by an elite of one kind or another. That is just it goes for Soviet Russia, or it goes for everywhere that you look at. The question is, how open is it to talent? And I would say in London, where you've got all these different loci of power, the arts world, the theatre world, finance, you've got all these different groups of people who can
throwing down ladders,
and people are constantly scaling them, as I was suggesting, in this piratical way, cutlass firmly clenched between their teeth, ready to take over.
You have, to use the American political scientists' phraseology, hard power, because you can do things with the police, you can do things with transport.
Yes.
I mean, you can actually affect the way these things
But
work.
we also have soft power.
Well,
We also have power of influence. Yes. Yes, I think so. This is my book, by the way, Johnson's Life of London, which this is called soft power now. This is where you disseminate your... Oh my God, I just happen to have it in my hand. London is a brand. It's a place with opportunity, and also because it's got a great brand name. People recognize it around the world. It stands for certain traditions, freedom, democracy, habeas corpus, rule of law, independent judiciary, free press, fish and chips, wonderful bicycles, whatever. And that is how London is going to succeed in the rest of the 21st century. Because as a brand, it will continue to draw people to it and draw talent from around the world.
Boris might have cleverly crafted a public persona as an outsider, a pirate, but something tells me that his establishment roots did him no harm. He knows better than most about the appeal of London's ancient institutions, but also the importance of not resting on your laurels. With its countless ladders for those with talent and fresh ideas and cold cash, London has a new vitality and a real global relevance, and has helped it to remain, in my view, the capital of the world. But then, I am biased.